Hi there, welcome to another video. This one is sort of continuing looking at using the Stream Deck for a 3-position switch, and this time I want to put a graphic onto the switch so that it works quite well with something like a fuel tank selector. So I'm using the C172 fuel selector as an example here. I'm not going to go into great details on this one because the details are actually in 2 previous videos that I've made. The first one is here where I looked at a programming method for getting a 3-position switch to works well with the fuel gauge. So if you want to know how the code works, it's here in this one. I'll make links to it and I'll put links in the description. So if you need the details for how the script works, that's done in detail on this one, and this one here will deal with how you make the graphics if you don't know how to do the graphic that's required for it. It goes through using a piece of free software that I use, and that's in there, but if you know how to do the graphics, then you'll be away on this one. So just a quick reminder of how the slider gauge works. So this is one graphic, one PNG. It's obviously 3 screenshots stitched together, and it's 144 pixels wide, and it's 3 times the depth. It's 432 pixels deep. And if that's the button that's on your Stream Deck, it's 144 by 144 pixels. And when you put the graphic into place, it slides it across, and one bit appears in the button and the rest is sort of hidden outside, and it's going to be sort of slid up and down depending on the value of the fuel selector. Now the default value is 1 for the fuel selector when it's got both tanks, 2 when it's left, and 3 when it's right. So what that means is when we read that value here, this is the variable that we'll be looking at, the fuel tank selector number, and it's fuel tank number 1. I'll show you in a second how to put that in. It's going to start off straight away by multiplying that 1 by 144. So what it actually does is it moves it straight out of the screen. So when it's in position 1, you don't see a graphic at all, and that's where this Y offset comes in. If we put the Y offset at minus 144, it will put that back into position for us. So when the value is 1, it's got graphic number 1 in place. When that becomes 2, it slides up. If it becomes 3, it slides up again. So that's how the slider works. It's the offset is the kind of unique feature here. So looking at how I've got it working here in the Stream Deck, that's the value I want to put in. So you could just type it in, it's an AVAR, or you could get it from X's and O's. If I just bring my X's and O's back into play. In my scripting here, what I would do, I would go looking for a variable here. Fuel tank. I'm looking for the fuel tank selector, and here it is. This is the one I would put in. So I would right hand click and paste that into if you get out of the way, and I would paste that into the variable section here and make sure that I edit that so it's reading 1. If I want it to become a button, so I press on it and it changes it, then I need a bit of scripting, which I have dealt with before. But the script I've got here is in the button settings. That's the folder that it's in, and I'll show you where it is in a second, and that's the actual script. I've called it fuel selector. You need to send an event value of 1, just need to send something to it to make it activate. And make sure the repeat is no, so you don't have any strange effects if you hold your button down for too long. Okay, and don't forget to press the submit button at the end. So again, if I go back to my scripting, in my script editor here, that's the folder that I put it in, and this is the script here. It's a bit small to read, so this is what it looks like. Essentially what it does is every time you call it, it steps through the possible values. So it goes from both tanks to left tank, back to both tanks to right hand tank, and then goes around that circuit. And this is it looking for what the current value is to compare it to that. And then it writes the new value into here. Watch their previous video if you want to understand what this bit's doing. Okay, so let's see it in action. Let's see how this works. If I bring my flight simulator up, and there's my Stream Deck. So looking at this button here, if I press the button on the Stream Deck, you can see that it's moved to the left tank, back to the right tank, back to both tanks, then to the right tank. So that's how it works. And in fact, it tries its best to keep going. If I manually click on this, and if I look at my Stream Deck again, let's bring that back into play. You'll see that that's moved correctly to the right place. And if I do the other one, go around to the right hand side, and again I'm not pressing on anything here. The graphic does keep up with it. It does some weird things occasionally because it gets out of sequence, so it's really not designed for you to click manually on here. But that's it. That's all we're doing, is we're stitching together a graphic which is relatively easy to put together, and a bit of code that I've dealt with in a previous video. And if I put the code back up again, give you a chance to see that, and put the links on here to the previous videos. Let's bring that back. There you are. That's the bit of code that you'll need to put in. Okay, I'll leave that for a few seconds there, and then I'll make the links for you, so you can, if you need to see the other videos, you can.